Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back into my channel. So we're gonna continue with this lab session. So let's go here. It says in lab 2, provision an Azure SQL database, enable access to an Azure SQL database. So from the SQL database page, select the overview. Okay, so I'm on the overview here. Select the overview. By the way, let's just play this video.
Now let's talk about automated deployment. To understand automated deployment, let's look at our options. Any resource in Azure, including SQL, can be deployed automatically through an Azure Resource Manager or ARM template, as shown here on the left. ARM templates can be deployed a number of ways: through the Azure portal, Azure CLI, PowerShell, or Cloud Shell, which is not pictured here. An alternative to using the ARM template is Azure Bicep. This is a simpler revision of the ARM template language using declarative syntax like ARM to deploy Azure resources. Both ARM templates and Azure Bicep help us to create infrastructure as a code solutions in Azure. As an option to deploy a Bicep file, you can use Azure CLI. If you don't have Azure CLI installed, use Azure Cloud in the Azure portal. To deploy a Bicep file or an ARM template, you need to have write access on the resources and be able to access all operations in the Microsoft.resources/deployments resource type. Remember that you can target your deployment to a resource group, subscription, management group, or a tenant. For the exam, be familiar with ARM templates and Bicep files, along with their similarities and differences and the ways to deploy them. Now let's talk about how to apply patches and updates for hybrid and IaaS deployments. Apply patches and updates for hybrid and IaaS deployments focuses on automated patching for SQL in a VM, whether it's on-prem or in the Azure cloud. This is critical for security updates and something that you as a SQL admin will be responsible for. For a SQL Server in an Azure VM, automated patching establishes a maintenance window during which time automated updates can only be installed. Please be aware that automated patching for SQL VM requires the SQL Server IaaS agent or infrastructure as a service agent. Automated patching can be configured using the Azure portal during provisioning or after for an existing VM, like shown here. Simply select the patching on the SQL Virtual Machine and enable it. You may also configure automated patching with PowerShell. To apply patches and updates for hybrid SQL and a VM deployment, take a look into Azure Arc and Azure Automation. Both are not pictured here. Azure Arc uses update management for Arc-enabled servers to install required updates to servers. Azure Automation can be used to automate patching and more. Please note that by contrast, Azure SQL Managed Instance and Azure SQL Database are both PaaS offerings, and therefore the patching and the updating is managed by Azure. Now let's discuss how to deploy hybrid SQL Server database solutions. Common use cases for deploying a hybrid solution for SQL Server database solutions include disaster recovery, SQL Server backups, and Azure Arc-enabled SQL servers. Keep in mind that when you're using a hybrid solution, you will need a VPN or express route to connect to Azure for low latency and security. The hybrid SQL Server platform provides the benefits of both on-prem and cloud services. There are a few different hybrid solutions for disaster recovery to protect your database in the event of a failure, like availability groups, log shipping, and database mirroring. Let's look at a few strategies for deploying a hybrid solution for SQL Server. Use a hybrid solution for disaster recovery to distribute deployments across multiple data centers for failover in an on-prem high availability approach. And then use Azure for disaster recovery in your hybrid failover, as shown here. Another strategy is to use a hybrid solution for SQL Server backups. And you can back up directly into Azure Storage via a URL or to an Azure file share using SMB. This can help protect against data loss when an on-site backup storage fails. You can even use Azure Storage to store your on-prem SQL Server user database files. Lastly, use a hybrid solution for Azure Arc-enabled SQL servers, which extends and centralizes.
All right, guys. All right, so now it says that, so we got to do networking security. So allow Azure service and access this. All right, guys. So I'll see you in the next lab.